And now, our last speaker, Tomé Duarte from Web Summit.
Público interativo, excepcional. Olá. Bom, antes, sorry, forgot about it. Too many languages. So first, obviously, I want to thank the organization for inviting me. It's always a very nice thing to come back to your alma mater. So it's a very, very nice feeling to come back here. So what are we going to talk about, or what am I going to bore you with for a few minutes? The challenges involved with doing things where basically everything goes wrong, which is doing stuff that has to happen in real time, can't stop for any given reason, but you're operating with an unknown set of variables of how many people are going to come in at any given time, of will the internet work at the venue, etc., etc., etc. So formally, we're talking about distributed systems that have to work offline first, and just so that you get a sense of scale, I used the example of 50K attendees, which was the number for Web Summit 16, the event. So the alternative talk, the alternative title for the talk would be something like this: Murphy's Law-driven development, because it's pretty much like that. So how did I get involved with this? First of all, the first conference I attended, if I recall correctly, was actually through Phil. CodeBits, our department, I studied informatics here, and our department used to send some people to CodeBits when it existed. So the first time I actually went as an attendee to a conference was through there. Then after that, I continued to go there until its final edition. I did some speaking there, I did some of the security stuff, etc., because that's kind of my thing. And overall, I got involved in meetups and stuff like that, so I got to organize, present some of events throughout the years, and basically dwell in some of the organization aspects of it. And eventually, I got involved with actually running stuff, running events in various scales, and then I joined Web Summit in October last year, which was pretty much 2 weeks away from our biggest conference. We have 4 conferences around the world in total. So let's start with the obvious. What is registration? What purpose does it fit? Basically, it comes about to a simple process of, okay, does this person have a valid ticket? What kind of accreditation is it going to get? And is this the actual person? So does it have a valid ID, etc.? And in any event with paid tickets, you'll go through this. In our case specifically, we have to make sure that the information syncs across properly between the mobile apps, which is a very high usage point during the events, across the web apps that also allow for attendee interaction, and in terms of roles, different accreditations, so wristbands and badges will give different access to different parts of the venue, different kind of satellite events, dinners, night summits, etc. So there's also that added constraints. So in terms of technical aspects that limit our ability, we have to run registration simultaneously at multiple venues. For example, last year, I'm taking Web Summit 16 as an example, we had registration running at the same time at Phil and at the airport. At the same time, in both of them, we had multiple locations because VIPs, media, etc. Do registration and get their accreditation in a different place than general attendees because, well, they're VIPs. So what exactly did this journey involve of picking up a system? So there was some sort of system already in place when I joined. And in my first 2 weeks there, basically I said, oh, that's the kind of product that I'm interested in. because if people are having trouble with Reg, that's something that I can de-stress the other teams during the event, because I don't really particularly care about software as a service or all that. I care about products that actually de-stress people, because I know how stressful it is to run an event. So it seemed right up my alley, and I picked it up. I ran Reg for Web Summit 16. I failed miserably for the first 2 hours. We actually had to lock down Reg for a couple of hours. So that was my first experience with the system. And then in the past few months, together with my colleagues, we've revamped the system to, well, hopefully make it better. So in terms of highlights, there were 3 main concerns with the previous system. First, it completely depended on the engineering team, back to back, to be set up, to be ran, to make sure that information was there, etc., etc., etc. Which is terrible if you have a production team that is already in place and has to fly out to every event and set up everything up. But then the last step is calling the engineers and saying, hey, can you help us, please? And there may be some server burning somewhere. We may have issues with the web app or the mobile app, which will obviously need to be accounted for. So it doesn't make sense to have that dependence on us. Another aspect that was bothering me was that people didn't trust the information flow. And what I mean by that is there was a certain degree of unreliability on how the information actually went from our ticketing platform to our core system that feeds into the websites and into the apps, and the information that was in place when people actually went there to get their accreditation, which could lead to people, well, fortunately it didn't, but it could lead to people being checked in without valid data, with voided tickets, stuff like that. And this was all pretty much knowledge that wasn't operatable in the sense of people knew how it was meant to be, people knew how to operate the systems, and we pretty much brought everything together without any actual sort of process in between to make sure that those kind of things couldn't happen. So that led to the other teams not being able to actually rely on the system. And it had a very, very long setup and decommission flow. So you had about 15 steps. I know because I did this personally for every single machine at Web Summit, so around 120 or something like that, where you had to go through about 15 steps to actually set up the system, make sure that it ran, test with a given ticket, and then the decommission process, making sure that we backed up all the data, etc., etc. It was pretty much the same thing. So this was a very, very huge pain in my mind. So what did we get, actually? Well, now we pretty much, the only dependency on us is during setup and decommission. And that is now a process that takes about 20 to 30 minutes total instead of per machine. So that was a major, major win. We fixed all sorts of issues that we had with our information flow, so now everyone can actually trust what is there, which also distresses a lot of people. And we can actually do all of this remotely. For example, today, when I was traveling here, I was activating machines in Madrid for the rest that's going to happen tomorrow from 9 a.m. So that kind of flexibility, obviously, is a major win. Also, we added a couple of things in terms of real-time data information, which helps when you have multiple venues to know, oh, we're going to run out of wristbands or badges in that location. So we better send a runner there to put something there. So, okay, I very, very much like this quote. If you ever saw me present before, you probably have seen this. This gentleman said that a complex system invariably evolves from a set of simpler systems that work and then come together to make something bigger that hopefully works. He also said that a complex system can fail in an infinite number of ways, which is also a very valid quote. So what were the design constraints? So what I did was pick up the project as it were, get to know it, and then, okay, let's refactor this and let's bring this to another level. So what were the design constraints behind all that? It has to work regardless of conditions. There can't be a point when someone comes up to a registration station to get their accreditation and get into the venue, and we say, oh, sorry, our system is not working. That can't happen. Not when you have people paying thousands to buy a ticket to an event. It just doesn't make sense. Obviously, we would like as much as possible to have real-time communication, if there is internet. And I tried to decouple everything that we had from external systems. Also heavily integrated in the sense that we actually can pull a lot of information from our different systems in real time very quickly, very easily. So this is the current architecture. Well, it doesn't properly read, but as you can see, there are a lot of moving parts. We'll come back to this in a bit. Let's talk about what is involved exactly in operating each one. So there's a multitude of tools, some because there was already knowledge in-house, some because it was the more accurate choice to develop what we needed to develop. One of our strong points is Ruby and Ruby on Rails. With great. Most of our APIs are implemented with this, so that was an obvious choice for us. Then, in terms of what I call non-registration data, so we're talking about stuff like which venues are there for a conference, which locations are there, are the stations assigned to one specific location, are they doing only speaker reg, or are they doing only media or general attendees, etc., etc. So all the kind of information that doesn't change day to day, very often changes, or sporadic changes, are stored in Postgres. And at the core, one of the major parts of our system operates through CouchDB, and I'll dive into this a little bit further in a bit. For those that don't know, CouchDB is basically a distributed database, document-oriented, that handles all the sync across the different nodes. It has its fun parts. For example, if you have, and this was something that happened to us, if you have a few dozen nodes operating and the internet becomes very, very slow or inactive, Couch will try to reconnect, to resync, but after a while, it will just give up and not tell you anything. So the first time we encountered this, we suddenly had a couple of hours of machines that weren't syncing, and we didn't know about it. So that was a tricky part to resolve, but Couch is still very heavily at the core of the system because it just handles so much things fantastically well. So another part that is crucial to the system is SaltStack. I had previously worked with SaltStack before I was introduced to it actually by someone that is here today, and I'm very thankful for that. SaltStack is pretty much equivalent to Ansible, Puppet, Chef, if you know those tools, with a very, in my opinion, different take in terms of orchestration. So most of those tools started off focusing on automation and have some sort of orchestration method. In this case, SaltStack was designed from the ground up to actually support both. Automation, we're talking about basically deployments and scaling of servers and configurations or apps or whatever actually that you need to do in a given system in a documented way. So you can have tests, you can have a code base that actually has pull requests and all that stuff to enforce good practices. But at the same time, if you need to spin up 30 machines, you can do one exact function, you can just do one comment and it takes care of everything. And you know that it does so in a reliable way. We use it heavily not for automation, but for orchestration. So all the stations that are actively operated by staff and volunteers to register people are orchestrated by Salt through us. Then, because we have to use Windows as the operating system for the registration stations, which is very, very frustrating, we had to dive into PowerShell to make, to handle a bunch of edge cases. The last one we encountered, for example, just to give you an idea of how intricate sometimes the systems become, every station has a printer. And those printers need to be set up with the proper printer settings. This is the page size, otherwise it's not going to print correctly. Well, it turns out that even though you're running your comments or whatever you're executing in the machine. As an administrator, Windows services can do a lot of stuff, but they can't set printer settings unless you actually log them in as a user. So they can't run as system. The system can't set printer settings, but the user can. Okay, so this is the kind of stuff that takes a lot of time to figure out and a lot of cold hair to actually come to a solution, but eventually we got there. So we deploy pretty much all of this stack through AWS with the exception of CouchDB. We use EC2 instances for running our core API, our Salt Master, and our Salt API. Then we use CloudFront to distribute installers in an automated way. So basically the stations pull the installer of the front-end software through that, and we use Glacier to keep long-term backups when we decommission a station. Then we have, well, at this point, a prototype of our control panel and dashboard for those systems, which operates in AlumniEI. That's built with Angular, as is the front-end app that actually lives inside the stations. It's bundled through Electron. If you ever used Atom, for example, it's pretty much the same system. It takes a web app and bundles it into an executable. And the last line was was something that I had kept there as a draft. Sorry about that. So let's go back to this and dive a little bit further. Not this. Okay. So this is the people actually registering attendees at an event. What they do on the front-end apps, which is basically a very simple system where you have a search box, you can scan a QR code, and it will bring up the attendees information for validation. Those machines run both. Those machines run both Salt client and CouchDB, which connect to our internet's active systems, and I'll explain that I'll explain why we're still depending on the internet for that part in the next slide. So CouchDB connects to what I call here as a CouchDB master, but in fact it's Cloudant. Cloudant is an IBM platform as a service, I guess, for CouchDB. So they provide a master node of CouchDB that handles all the connections from all the nodes. Salt Master is the instance of Salt Stack Master that controls all those minions. So that's what effectively keeps the link between all the registration stations at the different locations through to our remote panel where we can control everything, or if we want, through the machine itself, we can run comments. We can actually even access a running station and see what's happening there if there's a problem with it. Those get information from two different places. So, so the Salt Master is mainly operated by our core API. This API interacts directly with our back office. So basically what happens is, if you as an operator say, oh, I need to deactivate these two machines because we're not going to do, we don't need that many for, let's say, media. They will click something here, which will fire a request to our core API, which will validate all the information and then trigger an orchestrator in Salt Master. What that means is that from that point on, asynchronously, it's going to connect to the proper station or stations and do whatever we asked it to do. For example, when we activate stations, they first register with the Salt Master. You'll see in the back office, oh, I have 10 unassigned stations. Then you assign those and you activate them. By activating them, what happens is that the Salt Master will tell the Salt client, hey, run this, and it will pull all the information required, all the printer drivers, all the connection. It will set up the connection between CouchDB and Cloudant and continuous replication so that everything is continuous in sync, etc. And Core API also gets information from third-party integrations. So what this means is, well, an example would be that this is, for example, where we get our information for tickets. And then from tickets, the tickets will end up in cloud on Cloud Studio Master, along with some attendee information so that we can validate the identity. So the biggest challenge in doing something like this was that at first, all we had was a front-end app, or rather this one, and this, which connected to the Cloud Studio Master. This is how it all started, just 3 components. And then as we focused on what could be interesting and usable and valuable to our other teams, then eventually we came up with all this. In closing, so where are we actually running this? We first test run this new platform at CollisionConf, which was in May. It ran beautifully well, to be honest. I was expecting a lot of last-minute issues when you first deploy a new system, because we can't really test this unless we are at a real conference with actual people coming in. Obviously, we test the code itself, but the key thing here is not to test the code, but how the system reacts to faults. So now we're deploying this today in Madrid for a conference we have during this week. Next will be July Rise, and then obviously in Lisbon, Web Summit in November. So what's next? What are we missing? Cutting the link to the internet completely. Saltmaster and Core API and the back office can actually live on an on-premises server during the conference. The reason behind that is that, and I had a meeting with a partner last week where he interrupted the call. It's like this 50-year-old guy, and said, "Wait, are you actually asking us for a solution without internet access?" I said, "Yeah, that's a constraint for us." It's like, "But it's just 2017. How are you asking for that?" And the thing is, we actually don't control the internet at a venue. So we have to work on the assumption that everything is going to go up in flames. So our first next target is to actually cut off that and provide a solution to deploy this locally without dependency whatsoever on the internet. Making some adjustments to the back office so that we can actually remove the dependency on the engineering team so that I don't have to be on the train activating the stations in Madrid. And extending our integrations, obviously, because that's going to bring a lot of analytics and all other stuff that we currently don't have. And in my opinion, the most interesting one would be this. So we have a proof of concept of this. This basically is a test suite that instead of testing the validity of the code, actually tests, okay, is the system fault tolerant? Like, what happens if we slow down the network? What happens if we send jumbled data into CouchDB? What happens if? And so basically we identified 5 different faults that we need to induce, and we've come up with some internal tools to actually deploy that. So we basically use SaltStack to create a test environment with a few hundred stations, and then from them we induce a lot of faults to see what happens. So, any questions?
Yes, before, so any questions? Okay. They're thinking about the beer party afterwards. Sorry, drinks afterwards. No? No questions? Well then, thank you.
Thank you.